everyone. And today's session we will have the last chapter that will talk about the alerts in Microsoft Dynamics AX. The chapter unfortunately you can't find in your manuals, and the reason I added this chapter in this session because from my point of view I think it's quite important and very interesting new feature in Dynamics AX. So as an introduction course you could be interested how to operate and use alerts in Microsoft Dynamics AX. The second part of our training, we will go through the bullet points of the whole course. So I will just remind you what we went through, what chapters and what topics we were discussing. Also, the questions for these course assessments will be sent to you after this course. So please make sure you will answer all the questions, and this will help you to know if you are to help you to test your knowledge. So let's start with the first part of our course, and we will be talking about alerts in the Microsoft Dynamics AX. So in this session we will discuss the following. We will define use of alerts in Microsoft Dynamics AX, set up alerts, create alert rules, create alert rule templates, receive alerts, show the flow of events when alerts are triggered, and explain why alerts are not sent. Microsoft Dynamics AX provides the capability for users to stay informed on the condition of their business by using alerts. Users can set their own alerts for almost any condition that might occur within their business. For example, users can set up alerts to notify when a payment on a purchase order is due and payment has not been recorded, show when sales targets have been changed, show when delivery dates changed, inform the user that a custom address has changed, and notify that a sales order has been deleted. Notify when a production order due date has been reached and the order is not reported as finished. The alert functionality is designed so that alert rules can be set up in all modules of Microsoft Dynamics AX. They can be set on any table, field, or for any specific event, providing lots of flexibility for users to creatively keep themselves informed on the operations of their business. So we will go through the following scenario during this course, this part of the section. A company wishes to make sure that the appropriate personnel are informed when certain business conditions exist. To do this, the company has decided to implement the use of the alert features in Microsoft Dynamics AX. The technical staff of the company handles the general setup of alerts for all users of the company. When end users must be educated on how to set up alert rules in forms that they use. So let's have a look how we can define alerts in Microsoft Dynamics AX. Alert is a notification system that is used to alert you about critical events in Microsoft Dynamics AX that you want to track during the workday. With some clicks of the mouse, you can set up your own set of rules to be alerted about overdue deliveries, orders that are deleted, prices that changed, or other events. Users define the alert rules from the Microsoft Dynamics AX form that displays the data to be monitored. For a change of a sales target amount, the alert rule is defined in the sales organization form, where the targets for each period are displayed. When alert messages are displayed, the user can drill down for more information about the relevant business data. As an alternative to creating each alert rule from scratch, users can use the company accounts template feature to create an alert rule based on a template that is defined by the administrator of the system. Alerts can also help users who do not always work in the application. Alerts are viewable in the Enterprise portal, and users can also set up alerts to be sent in email. Microsoft Dynamics AX integrates email alerts with Microsoft Outlook. From the alert email message, the user can choose to click a link that opens Microsoft Dynamics AX and displays the related business data, or displays the alert and all previously received alerts. The user can also click a link in the email that displays the alert rule in Microsoft Dynamics AX. Besides alerts that are set by individual users, administrators can streamline the process of setting alerts. Administrators can create, modify, and delete alert rules for individual users, create alert rule templates, define an HTML or XSL template that merges alert data into an email message at runtime, set up scheduled batch processes to detect date-driven events and to process events that are derived from changes in the database. Detection of changes in the database is based on the database log technology. Alerts benefit customers by making it easier to keep track of key data in Microsoft Dynamics AX to help them perform their jobs more efficiently. Alerts benefit partners by enabling them to construct new alert rules, templates, and import them to customer systems. Partners can also develop new event types and new actions to be performed when an alert is sent. Additionally, partners can add and expose new database fields on a form. The fields should be maintained so that users can create alert rules on those fields by using the Create Alert Rule form. So let's have a look at the structure of an alert rule. Microsoft Dynamics AX provides for creating several different types of alert rules. It provides options for the duration of the alert rules and also provides options for the delivery of the alert. So, event alerts. The event could be a date that is reached or a specific change that occurs. Events are predefined, and the events that are available for field depend on the field selected. For example, if the field where you want to set up an alert rule is start date, the event type is due-in is available. But for a field like cost center, the event type due date is unavailable. However, for the cost center, an event like has changed is available. There are three types of event alerts. Due date events, which triggers an alert when a date is met. Update events, which triggers an alert when data in a particular field changes. And create and delete events. These events triggers an alert when a record is created or deleted. Changes that occur can be either a change a user initiates or a change that is part of a process. An example of a change initiated by the user could be that the user changes the delivery date of a purchase order. An example of a change that is part of a process could be that the status field of a form changes to reflect the life cycle of various processes in the system. So let's have a look at the conditions. You can use conditions to control when you are alerted about events. You can tell the system that you want to be alerted when a date on a record occurs, but only if the record matches a certain set of conditions. For example, suppose that you want to be alerted when the status of a purchase order changes to received. This is the event. You then must decide what record should be used. Should it be the all records in purchase order option, the current records in the purchase order options, or only records in purchase order that matches the selected filter option? This is where you select the condition. If you want to be alerted for a specific purchase order, you receive an alert when the status of the specific purchase order changes to received. When selected the only records in purchase order that matches the selected filter option, use the query functionality in the inquiry form in Microsoft Dynamics AX to set up your conditions in a very flexible way. So, expiry of the rule. You can specify how long the alert rule is to be active. Alert content. You can define the subject and message to be alerted with, and delivery method or delivery of alert. You have to specify whether your alerts are delivered as pop-ups or by email. So you can disable the email message option and the pop-up option in the options form. If you disable them, the options are not visible in the create alert rule form. For users to create their own alert rules, administrators must first complete some preparatory setup tasks. These include set up security keys, set up alert batch execution, create email alerts, create email templates, it can be language dependent, connect template IDs with an alert, make sure that users has a valid email address in user option form. For email alerts, set up a retry schedule for sending emails, set up connections to the SMTP server, define limits for attachments to emails, define the location of save folder where bitmaps that are to be included in emails are stored. Set up drill down capabilities in email templates including merge fields, set up navigation targets. This is used in the drill down link from an alert email in the attempt to reach the correct database where the alert is stored. Set up preferences in the email parameters form and set up email batch execution. So let's have a look at the security keys, the first and important part of the setup. Administrators must grant users appropriate permissions and table access for users to manage their alerts, to create the alert rules, to view the alerts, and to drill down to the business data. Administrators must also decide what users can what users, if any, will be able to view and administer the alert rules of others in the organization. Who will control batch jobs? Typically, this is the administrator. What data has to be accessed for drill down purposes, and who should have access to this data? Next step is alert batch execution setup. Alerts are processed with the batch processing functionality in Microsoft Dynamics AX. Batch processing must be set up for alerts to be delivered. Microsoft Dynamics AX supports two different event types. Triggered by change-based events, the so-called create, delete, and the update events. Triggered by the due date. You can set up batch processing for each of these types of events. So let's have a look at the process batches for change-based events. Microsoft Dynamics AX reads all change-based events, field updates, records deleted, or records created. that have occurred after batch processing was executed the last time. And these events are matched with the conditions set up in alert rules. The batch process generates an alert when an event matches the rule conditions. So next slide we will talk about the how to set up the batch frequency for change-based events. For change-based events, you can set up a batch job that triggers the processing of an event soon after the event is logged by the system. The greater you set the frequency of batch job execution, the sooner after change has occurred, users receive their alerts. However, a high frequency number might adversely affect the performance of the system. If, on the other hand, the frequency is low and is scheduled for time when the system load is low, the effect on performance is minimal. But a low batch processing frequency might not fulfill users' demands for timeliness timelines of their alerts. Therefore, when you set the frequency of change-based event batches, consider the balance between timelines of alert and the performance of the whole system. The larger the number of users who create alert rules, the more relevant these considerations are. That is, the number of events to be processed does not change with the frequency, but the more users who create alerts, the more checks have to be performed. This kind of data change could affect system performance. The time that passes before users receive their alert is also controlled by the time interval by which Microsoft Dynamics AX polls for new alerts. The time interval must be set in minutes. The minimum value is 1 and the maximum value is 1440 minutes, which equals to 1 day. So to set up time interval to poll for new alerts, we have to go to our Dynamics AX, and in the Tools menu, Options form, and in the option forms we can find the alerts field group. And if you remember from our previous sessions we already discussed, I'll just remind you. So here we can select the number of minutes we want to receive alerts, and yes, we can enter the time interval. If the change-based batch processing is set to a low frequency, you could lose alerts, because data relevant to alert rule conditions change before the batch is processed. For example, you might have an alert rule that should trigger an alert when the event is customer contact changes and the condition is customer equals, for example, B. If the customer contact changes for the customer B and the event is logged, the batch processing system is set up with a low frequency relative to the frequency of data entry. So before the event is processed, the customer name changes again from B, for example, to A. When the event is processed, the data in the database no longer matches the rule condition and no alert is generated. So let's have a look for at the due date event and batch processes for this type of the event. Microsoft Dynamics AX detects all events caused by due dates. These events are matched with the conditions set up in the alert rules. The batch process generates an alert when an event matches the rule conditions. So for due date events, you might want to set up batch jobs that execute during the night or at a specific time, of the day to balance the system load. You should at least set up the batch to execute one time a day. If you want alerts to be sent as early as possible, the batch processing should occur immediately after the system date changes. If you want to generate alerts from due date events that occur after due date batch has processed alerts, you can run the batch once more on the same day. If a purchase order is created by using a due date that would trigger an alert on that same day, you would have to execute the batch after the purchase order is created. Is created to receive the alert on the day. However, if you do not run the batch again on that day, the next day's batch job detects any non-processed due date events from the previous days. Even though the batch process is run more than one time a day, alerts are not generated two times for the same due date events and conditions. Alerts are only generated for any dates that have become due because of changes in the system that occurred after the last batch was executed. Alert rule processing could be stopped in a company for reasons like vacation, system failure, or other issues that could cause batches not to be run for a designated time. To avoid situations where due date alerts become obsolete because the batch has not been running for several days, you can use the batch processing window interval to enable the batch not to run for a specified number of days. When the batch processing window is set to some days, an alert is sent when the alert rule is processed, even though the alert exceeds the time limit defined in the due data criteria. However, if the time limit defined by using the due date criteria plus the additional batch processing window interval is exceeded, an alert is not sent. For example, you create an alert rule by which you are alerted when an employee birthday was 2 days ago. The batch processing window interval is set to 10 days. So if the batch runs on day 1, user alerted about employees whose birthdays were 2 days ago. So let's have a look at this example. We have day batch runs and alert generated. If batch is not run on day 1 but run on day 2, alert sent about employees whose birthday were 2 days and 3 days ago. If batch didn't run on first and second day but only on day 3, alert sent about employees whose birthdays were 2, 3, and 4 days ago. If not run on days 1 to 9, but only on day 10, the user is alerted about employees whose birthday was 2 to 11 days ago. If the batch is not run on 1 to 10 days and first time batch runs on day 11, the alert sent about users whose birthday were 2 and 12 days ago. So, and if the first time batch runs only on the day 12, the alert sent about employees whose birthday were 2 to 12 days ago. From this example, it seems that if the batch processing window interval is set to 10, there can be a period of at the most 10 days when the batch does not execute. The batch has to run at the latest the 10th day to make sure that the alert is generated. If the batch processing window is set to 0, you are alerted only if the batch runs 2 days after the birthday. In this case, the batch has to run every day not to lose any alerts. So where we can set up the batch processing window interval. You can find this form in, of course, Dynamics AX. I will close the options, and in the basic module, in the setup folder, alert folder, we have alert parameters form. Alert parameters form, and we can find the field batch processing windows in days, where you can enter the number of days you want for due date flexibility. So let's have a look at the event queues and how we can remove the event queues and what it is. This is when you enable a batch that process change-based events for company, examine the event queue and decide whether all the events in the queue should be sent out as alerts. If the old, non-processed and obsolete events are not deleted, the batch generates alerts and potentially spams the users. Users might have set up alert rules long before the batch process is started, and the events that have been generated might create many obsolete events. Users might have had access to create rules months before the batch is enabled, and the events that are triggered by the user's rules are logged by the system regardless of whether the batch is enabled or not. If you decide that the events in the event queue should be regarded as obsolete and not be sent out as alerts, the event queue can be deleted. To find the event queue, we have to go to the Application Object Tree development environment in the Microsoft Dynamics AX. So if you remember from our previous previous chapters, you can find Application Object Tree by clicking the Application Object Tree button or Control-D. You will see the development environment, select the data dictionary and choose the tables. In the tables you can find event CUD table, where you can, where all the event queue is stored. To have a look at the event view or at the table, we can right click on the table, go to the add-ins and to the table browser. In the table browser you will see the list of the queue events. Currently I don't have any, but if you see some events that are old and should be deleted, you can delete directly from this table by using the delete button. Be careful when you're operating with this table, because this is the direct access to the SQL database. So only administrators of Dynamics AX have to have access to the application object tree and to this form. So let's move back to our slides and let's talk about the when we have to turn off our event generation. When data is imported into an existing company with alert rules already created, it is good practice to turn off the generation of alerts. When new data might trigger alerts for users, and to avoid users who have created alert rules being spammed with alerts. So this feature can be turned off. To turn off the generation, event generation during the data import, we have to find the import function in Microsoft Dynamics AX, which is in the administration module, in the periodic, and data import export. If you remember from our previous chapters, sessions, we discussed briefly the data import and export. So when importing data, we can use the import form, and on the Advanced tab you can find the checkbox that generates alerts during the import. By default, this checkbox is not selected, so make sure when you're importing data to the Microsoft Dynamics AX, this checkbox is not selected. So let's move to the user options. Each user can set options for the receipt of alerts. These options found on the General tab of the Options form. So if I will move back to remind you again, the Tools and Options form. So users can set these options. First is how frequently to receive alerts, destination of the pop-up link, and when alerts should be sent as emails, pop-ups, or both. Let's have a look and create alert rules. Before creating an alert rule, consider when or in what situation you want the alert. When deciding which event to be notified about, you can locate the form in Microsoft Dynamics AX where the data that causes the event is displayed. The event could be a date that occurs or change that occurs. Therefore, you should find the Microsoft Dynamics AX form where this date is stated or where the changed field or new record is displayed. When you have this information, create your alert rule. By creating an alert rule, you compose the criteria that the system should meet to trigger an alert. Think of criteria as a match between the occurrence of an event and the fulfillment of specific conditions. When an event occurs, the system starts checking according to the conditions that are set up in Microsoft Dynamics AX. So, new or modified alert rules are only accepted if users have access to all tables and fields required to use the rules. For example, suppose a user creates a rule on a table. With the user's current security permissions, the user can create this rule. Subsequently, the user's security permissions are limited with the fact that the user can't access the table. In this situation, the rule will remain visible in the Manage Alert Rule form, but no alerts will be generated and sent to the user based on this rule. The same situation will occur if a rule is set up on a table and there is a reference to another table in the filter of the rule. If the user loses permissions to the reference table, the user's alert rule will be obsolete and no alerts will be generated from this rule. When users want to use templates to create alert rules, only templates for the parts of Microsoft Dynamics AX which are implemented for use will be available. When a rule is created that has a filter in an inquiry form, the owner of the rule will have the same rights and the same limitations as the user ordinarily would when using the inquiry feature, where all tables in the list have either a one-to-many or many-to-one relationship with the first table. So let's go through the steps that are involved in creating an event alert rule. The procedure for creating a due date alert rule is very similar, except for different choices in the Alert Me When section of the Create Alert Rule form. So to create alerts, we need to go back to our Dynamics AX. Select the form on which we want to create our alert. For example, in the Sales Ledger, I will select sales order form. So we need to right-click the field that we want to set up an alert rule. So, for example, I want to create alert when the new sales order is created. I right-click on my sales orders and select the Create Alert rule. The alert rule form will be displayed and the field that we selected will be displayed in the field. So we selected the sales order and the sales order field is displayed. Now we have to select the event in the event field. So let's say that we want to create alert when the sales order is created. So in the Alert Me 4, you can select the desired option, and to monitor a specific set of records, we can click Select to open a query form where you can define a filter for the records that are to be monitored for the alert. For example, I want to create an alert for the sales order when sales order is created for the specific customer. So in this query form, I will add a new record, select field customer count, and in the criteria I will select customer count 4,000. So that means that when new line or new sales order for the customer account 4,000 is created, I will receive the alert that sales order is created. So I'll click OK. So we can select the end date to put an expiration date on the alert. And the end date will activate the calendar field where we can select the end date. So I will select no end date. Now we can enter the text in the subject field for the title of the alert message. So let's say the subject will be customer 4,000, sales order. For customer 4,000 was created. Also, we can add the message in the message field, so we can add the additional text. Also, administrators of alert rules can designate the employee to be notified by making the appropriate selection in the user ID field. Appropriate security keys are required for this action. Also, we can click the Show Pop-up checkbox to display a pop-up for the alert. So we can click OK, and the rule will be saved, and cancel, the rule will be cancelled. So I will click OK. And as you can see, in the Manage Alert Rules form, the alert rule was created. If I will close this form, I can show you the due date alert as well. So to create a due date alert, you have to select the date you want to create the due date. Right-click on this field, go to the Create Alert Rule form, and on the event for the date, you can also set up due date alerts, due date type. So is due in, and was due the certain amount time ago. So I will not create it for you, just demonstrated that for the date field you can select the due date alert as well. So also we can create alert rules by using the template. To do so, we have to go to the Tools and select the Manage Alert Rules form that we just saw. Open the Manage Alert Rules form, create a new record or click Ctrl-N, and you can see the template form is displayed where we can select the template and click OK. Also, templates could be created by clicking the Create Alert Rules, and from selecting from templates, again the same template form is opened where we can select the template. So let's select a template, click OK. You can have a look of the properties of the alert rules on the General tab, and also you can modify some properties as well. So you can change the criteria on this tab as wanted and then close the form. So let's have a look how can we create the alert rule templates. You can define an alert rule as a template. By using an alert rule template, you can create a new alert rule without deciding on all the details of the alert rule. If you base alert rules on the predefined template, you do not have to decide on all the details of the alert rule setup. Setting up alert rules as templates requires appropriate security keys that control access to the company account template functionality. So to create the alert rules, we have to go back to our Dynamics AX. Again, make sure that we are in the Manage Alert Rules table, which we can find in the Tools and Manage Alert Rules. Select the appropriate record we would like to create template from. Select the rule. And if you remember from our previous classes, about the template, the procedure of the creating templates for the alert rules is very similar to creation of templates for any other fields in Dynamics AX. So what you do is select the rule, right-click on it, and select the record in form. From the record information form, you can select what type of the template you want to create. It could be company account template and user template. Again, if you remember from our previous sessions, so let's select the user template, give it a name, for example, it was my production template. Also, I can enter the description. Click OK and close the record info form. So next time when I'm creating a new record by clicking Ctrl-N or selecting new records, you can see my production template is displayed in the list of alert rules template. So let's go back to our presentation and talk about the receiving the alerts. You can use the View Alert form to view the alert that you receive. If you have unread alerts, an icon is displayed in the status bar. Click the icon to open the View Alert form. To make sure that you do not overlook any alerts that can also be delivered as a pop message or as email alerts. Pop-up messages appear at the bottom of your desktop area when the Microsoft Dynamics AX application is open. You can set options to receive alerts as pop-up message in the options form. From the pop-up message, you can either view the alert listed in the View Alert form or drill down to the region of the alert to view the context in which the alert was triggered. An email alert is triggered in Microsoft Dynamics AX and sent out as an email message. If you have alerts delivered by email, you can be alerted about events even when you are not working in Microsoft Dynamics AX. Email alerts cannot be created or sent manually. They must be processed through the Microsoft Dynamics AX email system. Also, we can receive alerts in the Enterprise portal. Alerts can be sent to the Enterprise portal, so those users who have access to the portal can stay informed of the conditions of the business. In the Enterprise portal, users can view alerts, delete alerts, view the alert rule, disable alerts for the rule. So let's have a look when alerts are triggered. And this section discusses the general series of events that occur when conditions exist within Microsoft Dynamics AX that trigger an alert. So when the polling mechanism in Microsoft Dynamics AX detects that an alert has been triggered when the alert rule owner is logged in, a pop-up is displayed immediately and the unread alert count in the status bar is updated. The pop-up contains information about company name, if more than one company is registered in Microsoft Dynamics AX, alert subjects as defined in Create Alert Rule form, the form header information from the form where the alert is generated, any message defined by the users have the following options with regards to the pop-up. User can dismiss the pop-up if they want to. If the user does not interact with the pop-up, it automatically closes. User can obtain details about the alerts directly from the pop-up by clicking the link in the pop-up. When user starts Microsoft Dynamics AX, the pop-up is not displayed for alerts that were generated when the user had Microsoft Dynamics AX shut down. The indicator displays the number of new alerts and is updated immediately when new alerts occur. The indicator also displays the number of unread alerts. This includes those generated when the user had their client application shut down. Users can open the View Alerts form from the alert icon that is displayed when alert is generated. So let's move back to now Dynamics AX. So as you can see, on the right corner of my status menu, you can see that my system displays that I have 2 unread alerts. So if I will double click on this message, you can see the View Alert form will be opened, where I can see the list of all my alerts. On the General tab, you can see the information about the current alert. So the same form can be accessed by clicking View button and selecting the alerts. And also, it could be reached from the Basic, Setup and Alerts. And if we'll go to the Manage Alert Rules, select the alert rule and select View Alerts. Next. We'll select the alerts that has. In this case, the alerts that belong only to the specific rule will be shown in the View Alerts form. Can't find any currently. I guess this one. So you can see. So the View Alerts form presents all alerts in an overview style. For each alert, the following information is visible: unread read status, alert subject name, the form or table label where the alert was created from, company name, date and time occurred, email alert requested. The default sort order for the alert is date time. However, the alerts can be sorted by the columns in the grid. The View Alerts form provides the users with the following capabilities. So we can click Alert Origin to drill down to the record caption level where the event occurred. We can select an alert and then click Manage Alert Rules to view the corresponding alert rule in the Manage Alert Rules form. And we can select an alert and view detailed alert information in the General tab. Also, we can delete alerts from the form, select and alert and then click the delete. So if I will go back to Dynamics X, so on the General tab, we can see the information about the alert. If we'll click Alert Origin, we can see where the alert originates from. Manage Alert Rules will lead us to the Manage Alert Rules form and to the specific alert rule to this alert. Also, we can refresh the view on the form and change status to read or unread for the alert. If the user tries to view an alert rule that was deleted after the alert was raised, Microsoft Dynamics X informs the user that the rule has been deleted. However, the user will not be informed if the rule has been modified after the alert was raised. Go back to our presentation and talk about the drilling down in alerts. When a user decides to drill down into the alerts, the user is directed to the best available context in Microsoft Dynamics X from where the alert rule was created. The user is directed to the inserted or updated record or the due date record according to these rules. So if it's directed to the form and the selected event field where the alert rule was created. If that is not possible, the user is directed to the default form reference and selected event field for the table in which the rule was created. If that is not possible, the system informs the user that no form can be opened by drill down and informs the user about the form name in which the alert rule was created. If the record no longer exists, A message informs the user that this field record has been deleted and is not available. If the record has been updated after the alert was created, the user is directed to the updated record according to the direction rules noted in the previous bulleted list. If the user permissions no longer lets the user be directed to a specific form or table, the user is denied access to the form or table and receives a notification that access has been denied. To be able to drill down from an email alert, the email template must be set up to accept the link to the appropriate form until generated by the system. For the link to work, the user must also be logged into the Microsoft Dynamics AX. So next slide, we will have a look at why alerts could not be sent. Sometimes alerts are not sent to user, even though they may be expected by the user. The following information possesses some scenarios where alerts may not be sent, even though users expect them to be generated. So first is data changes before alert is generated. If a user does not receive an expected alert, it could be because data changed before the event was processed and the conditions to trigger the alert are no longer present. In this case, the alert is not sent. When a batch is executed, it processes the logged events and matches actual data in the database together with the rule conditions. However, if the data changes after the event was logged, the result could be that certain conditions are no longer met and no alerts are generated. That is why administrators must understand the risks involved in a low frequency of batch execution. Next, the reason alert rules disregarded during data import. During data import, the processing of alerts can be turned off to avoid lots of alerts being sent to users who have created alert rules. When the alert generator is turned off, no alerts are triggered by the data which is imported, even though some of the existing rules match conditions of the imported data. So third is third reason alerts could be delayed. If batch processing is set to be executed with a low frequency, alerts based on rules with a narrow time limit might not be sent in time to be of any use. For example, you have specified that you want to be alerted when a purchase order is due in 2 days. If the batch is only run every second day, the purchase order might actually be due 1 day after you receive your alert, and you do not receive the 2-day notice expected. The same is true for due date alerts that should alert you about past due dates. For example, perhaps you might want to be alerted 5 days after a purchase order was due. If batches are only run every second day, your purchase order was actually due 6 days ago and not 5 days ago when you received your alert. Next reason alert rules become obsolete. The due date alert rules can be set up with some flexibility with regard to time limits. That is, the due date alert rules can have a built-in time allowance to allow for situations where batches are not run for a period of time. However, if the time allowance set up for alert rules is exceeded, alerts become obsolete and no alerts are sent. Next is event queue deleted. Reason. If the event queue is deleted before batch job is executed, users who have active alert rules in the system do not have alerts that would otherwise have been generated and sent to them. And last one, the security setting changes. changed. So security settings have changed. So if security settings change and the user no longer has permission to access the data that forms the basis of the alert rule, no alerts generated by this rule are delivered to the user. So we finished our alert part of our session, so the first part of our session, and we were talking about the alerts, and so the conclusion is the alerts are used in the Microsoft Dynamics AX system to inform users when a condition exists in the system. Generally, alerts fall into two categories: event alerts and due date alerts. Alerts can notify users in several ways: pop-ups in the application, email, and alerts in the enterprise portal. Alerts can be set up for all modules in the system, making them a method to keep users informed of most business situations. So now we finished the first part of our today's session, and we finished with this chapter. We finished our introduction course that we had for 6 weeks. So now let's go briefly through all the topics that we had during these 6 weeks, just to remind you again what this course was about. So the first part we were talking about the introduction into the Microsoft Dynamics AX, and in the first session we discussed the module integration in Microsoft Dynamics AX. We explained the key features of Microsoft Dynamics AX and explained the benefits of the unique Microsoft Dynamics AX architecture. Then we demonstrate the Microsoft Dynamics AX basic modules. We created sales and purchase orders and production orders, and we showed the production process. Also, we showed the process of assembling an order and demonstrated the traces of an order from sales to production to general ledger. Then we were talking about the user interface, where we discussed logon to Microsoft Dynamics AX. We explored the Microsoft Dynamics AX application window, found and used keyboard shortcuts, and used the Microsoft Dynamics AX help system. On the user session, we created the user groups, created users by using the Active Directory import wizard, created users manually, we defined parameters for user logs, and we monitor client and server activity in the Microsoft Dynamics AX system. On our company account session, we defined the company structure, created company accounts and domains for security, created table collections and virtual companies to enable table data sharing across companies. We set up company information and enter the company information. We exported and imported data from and into the Microsoft Dynamics AX. In the Tools menu session, we accessed the employee telephone lists, changed the system date, displayed and used the calculator, used the unit calculator to convert between different units, archived print jobs, switched between company accounts, customized toolbars, and configure user settings. In the command menu session, we used the Go to the Main Table form. We used Restore features and Setup features, Hide and Show features. We created alert rules and viewed records information. Also, we went through the installation of the Microsoft Dynamics AX in the Install Microsoft Dynamics AX session. So, on this session, we reviewed the core components of the Microsoft Dynamics AX installation. We reviewed a single computer installation of Microsoft Dynamics AX and reviewed the installation checklist process. Also, we verified sample data. In the number sequences session, we defined number sequences, we created number sequences using the setup number sequences wizard, created number sequences manually, and defined parameters on number sequences. Also, we viewed references and history. In the differentiating features session, we were talking about the modifying a list using Morphix. We used Enterprise Portal to enter a sales order. We accessed the SQL data tables and used SQL Server reporting services. We also reviewed the integration with Microsoft Outlook and radio frequency identification. And the last session, today's session, was about the alerts, where we defined use of alerts in Microsoft Dynamics AX. We set up alerts, created alert rules, created alert rule templates, received alerts and showed the flow of events when alerts are triggered, and explained why alerts are not sent. So we finished our introduction session for this 6 weeks. So please, if you have any questions about our course, about the introduction, or about the Dynamics AX, you have the chance now to answer these questions, and I will happily answer them. You can use your question form to ask the questions. So we have a couple of minutes. I can answer your questions. Also, I would like to remind you that you will receive the assessment questionnaire for this course that you will have to go through and test your knowledge. So please do so.
Don't see any questions.
No, I don't see either. So we can post the
yes.
Assessment
the evaluations. Thank you, Margarita.
Thank you very much.
You should now all see the survey in the slide area. Your feedback is valuable to us, so please take a moment to fill out this survey prior to logging out. I'd like to thank you for your attendance to this live meeting and like to welcome you to tomorrow's finance session. You will receive the login details of this live meeting by the end of the day. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.